Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Steve Cunningham. I want to show you these 4 little slide guitar licks in standard tune guitar. Let's start off with the first one. We're in the key of E here. And for this particular application, I was just doing kind of a call and response with this little, blues lick that we all know. And, these can be played in any key, but we're going to do them in E. Now, the first one, what we're doing here, because we're in standard tuning, we're working off of this little E major triad at the 9th fret on strings 2, 3, and 4, and using that as sort of our little home bass, with the root being the 9th fret of the G string. And what we're doing is we're starting off playing kind of that sweet spot, that blues area between the kind of the flat part of the minor third and the major third. So, playing blues, it's kind of like when we do, we'll kind of play, out of the E minor pentatonic scale and give that minor third a little kind of microtonal bend. Sometimes it might be a full major third like that. Other times it just kind of reaches towards it, but never really gets there. And that's part of what makes the blues so special, that tension that's created by messing with that third, right? Now, because we're playing with a slide, that gives us access to this whole area, kind of, think of the major second, the F sharp, all the way to the major third. Now that's in this case, the 7th fret to the 9th fret. Now for me, I kind of like that spot a little bit on the sharp end of the 7th fret, and maybe not quite resolving all the way to that major third. The trick here, there's 2 things that are really important for this first lick. The first one is to absolutely stick the landing on your root. So the root has to be totally precise, because that's our, that gives us the resolution, and you want your resolution to be strong. The other thing from a technical perspective, what's really important here, is to make sure that whatever right hand technique you're using, I'm hybrid picking, I'm using a flat pick and my middle finger. A lot of slide players play with the bare hands. You could flat pick the whole thing. The important thing is that you can do that you can go from string to string without having there being any overlap, because what we don't want for this is for it to sound like this. Now that sounds cool, you know what I'm saying, but you want to be able to control when you want that to happen, okay? So in this case, what I'm looking for, I want it to sound like this. Okay, and just in general, that's probably the single most important technique for a slide player from a right hand perspective, is to be able to mute really cleanly with your right hand, or left hand if you're a left-handed player. So that's our first lick. The second lick here, what we're doing is, very, very similar to the first lick, but we're prefacing those first couple notes by playing on the high string. So we're going root, sliding into that E at the 12th fret, then sliding into the 9th fret, which is the major 6, by way of the B, which the 7th fret, which is the 5th. So we're going. So we have this kind of, and having those slides, especially that second slide, that little grace note slide, it kind of makes the notes sing a little bit more. Now, once we do that, we're just grabbing a couple of those licks we did in the first lick. So that's pretty much it for that second lick, because it's pretty derivative of the first lick. Now the third lick, once again, this is kind of a modular thing. You can use these as individuals, you can put them together, you can do really whatever you want. This third one's a little trickier. We're going. So once again, the first, second, and third licks all end the same way. Kind of like that, all right? So this little thing, what we're doing here is we're starting at the 11th fret, sliding to the 12th fret, and then going back to the 11th fret. Then repeating the same thing with the 10th and 11th frets. It kind of makes it, the guitar's kind of talking a little bit there, right? So, and you really want to keep, have some space in between there. Keep the notes a little bit on the staccato side. Now, one thing I've noticed with a lot of slide players, slide by nature is kind of a legato type thing. And which is a beautiful sound, right? But for these licks, part of what makes them sound, gives them a lot of attitude, is the fact that we're playing them kind of punchy. It's got everything we're doing is fairly staccato, and it kind of almost goes against the nature of what your slide wants to be, especially if you're maybe more of a beginner player, where everything, kind of wants to be like that, which again is a great sound. With these, we're keeping everything, again, real punchy, more on the staccato side. I'm saying the same shit over and over here. So here's that third one more time. Now the fourth lick is a little bit of an oddball lick, and it gets a lot harder. So what we're doing for this one, the main component is, think of playing, a guitar lick that we've all probably played at one time or another. So we're playing, the third string to the first string, 13th fret 12, G sharp E, then 11th fret 10th fret, which is F sharp D, and then 9th fret, which is E to C sharp, and then 7th fret, which is D to B, okay? Now what I'm doing here is I'm kind of doing a reverse of that lick, going, which I love that lick. I think it sounds really cool. The trick here is you have to absolutely mute the second string so that it doesn't ring at all, okay? And you also want to make sure that your high string is muted before you strike the third string. So otherwise it's going to sound like this. It sounds like crap, right? So what we want is, you can see what I'm doing here is using my ring finger, I'm assigning that to the high string, using my pick on the third string, and I have my middle finger just planted on that second string. It is not moving. For those kind of licks, right? Now, if you're playing barehanded, I think it's a little bit easier, because here you assign your thumb to the third string, index finger stays put on that second string to mute it, and your middle finger plays the high string. That feels really weird to me because I don't play that way. So once again, we've got this. Oh, sorry. And then the last two are pretty easy. Just so. And then the big payoff at the end is I'm releasing strings 2, 3, and 4, which are, make up that major triad, and kind of allowing them to all ring at the same time, so I get that cool chordal sound, right? Which I was not wanting to have happen earlier, because I really wanted those to be punchier, right? Okay, so now something I do a lot, might be kind of weird to some of you guys, but as soon as I play that, I'm taking my ring finger and my pick. Let me make sure I'm telling the truth here. Yeah. So you can see this. I'm really clamping down on any potential insurgency there. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're playing slide guitar, especially with a brass or metal slide, but even with a glass slide, playing with distortion, The friction, any unattended strings, they're going to ring, man, and they're not going to. A lot of times they're not going to sound good, especially in standard tuning. If you're in open E, open G, open D, whatever open tuning you might be in, there's a little bit more compatibility between the notes. But with standard tuning, there are some pretty ugly sounds that can be had if you're not muting. Okay, so my whole thing with standard tuning is, I play a lot of lap steel, as you guys can see, and my lap steels I always play in different open tunings. But for guitar, I almost always play in standard, and that's because if I'm doing a gig, and there might be depending on the gig, there might be one or two songs I'm going to play slide on. And what I don't want to do is to have to bring a second guitar tuned to a different tuning for like maybe one or two songs, right? So, I do it all on standard tune. And, another thing is you learn after a while, when you first start playing slide, at least my experience was I needed higher action and heavier strings to support kind of the weight of the slide, to create a little bit of resistance to help to keep from kind of fretting out, right? As you get better, you can develop a lighter touch, and you can play with your main gig guitar. And this is based on the assumption that that's kind of what you're doing, that maybe you're relatively new to slide or play slide a little bit, but it's not like the main thing you do. And now again, I mean, you can do anything you want. So this is just me pontificating here, I think that's pretty much it. So a recap of the whole thing. 3, 4. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to play the same thing at a different tempo, different groove. Okay, so that was kind of a slow shuffle. Let's see how it works if I do something straighter and faster. And I have no idea, so I might just freaking edit this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. I forgot the set. Shit. Okay, here we go again. Take 2. Yeah, I kind of cheated a little bit there, but whatever. Most of you probably aren't going to see this anyways. All right, again, I'm Steve Cunningham. I hope this helped somebody out there. And yeah, man, see you next time.